Right, lads, today we're going to have a look at the fluvial environment. Fluvial environment refers to the rivers. If you ever see the word fluvial, it refers to rivers. Okay, always refers to rivers. We're only looking at rivers from the point of view of short questions and part A's. 20 mark questions. We are not doing long questions on rivers. We're not covering it in detail. So this will be nice and quick. You'll need your exam papers here with you to help with these. And to do the short questions. It's the best way of doing it, just practicing these questions over and over and over again. But there's not a massive amount in this that you'll need to know in detail, really. Okay, a lot of this is third year stuff. Just in terms of what we're looking at, okay, there's always three choices here. It's always coast, rivers, and glaciers. You only have to do one of these in detail. So we're going to do coast in detail. We've done that already. And we're only going to cover the two of these for short questions and part A's. Because we're doubling down on physical geography, you need to know these in terms of the short questions and part A's. Okay, there's no getting away from that. But in terms of the types of questions or how prevalent or how often this topic turns up, there is nearly always something on either rivers, coasts or glaciers on the leaving cert. Sometimes it can come up twice. You know, feature of erosion, deposition, choice or both features, human interaction. Basically, it's either a feature of erosion, feature of deposition, or human interaction. But you'll see there every year for the past 10 years, there has been something on either a feature of erosion, feature of deposition, or human interaction. And in some years, like in 2021, it was up twice, you know. So when we look at the course, we're probably going to look at features of erosion. You need to know one erosion, one deposition, and human interaction. That's the most you need to know. For what we're going to look at today in terms of rivers, we're only looking at from the point of view of short questions and part A's. 20 markers. Okay, we'll be doing the same with glaciers, and then we'll cover coasts in more detail. So first thing you need to be aware of is the parts, the different parts we have on our river system. So the first one is the source, and the source is where the river begins. Next up you have is the tributary. Tributary is a smaller river that joins a larger one. The point where a tributary and a main river meet is called confluence. The mouth, that's the point where the river enters the sea at, or it could be a lake as well. Estuary is the part of the river that's tidal. It's just prior to the mouth. That means that the water level here would rise and fall with the tides. Drainage basin, this is the entire area that the river is going to drain. So anything inside that red line is going into this main river here, no matter where it falls, be it up here or down here. Any rain that falls, water underneath the ground is going to end up in this river basin. Okay, watershed, it's the high ground that separates one river basin from another. And then the course. The course is the entire path that a river takes on its journey from its source to its mouth. Okay, so again, for part A, short questions, it's important that you can recognize these different parts, know what they are basically. Okay, so I'm going to give it there a couple of seconds, pause it now, and take those down. The stages is the next thing you need to be aware of. You've got three different stages in the river. You've got the young, the middle, and the old. Okay, the young or the youthful stage, upper course, the middle or mature stage, or the old or the lower course. You just need to be aware that there are three different stages, and in different stages you have different features and different types of rivers and different methods or processes being active. So in the young stage, you've got mainly erosion. In the middle stage, you've got erosion, deposition, and transport, all three. And then mainly in the old stage, you've got deposition. Okay, what would you look at or see if you were looking at the river in a cross section? V-shaped valley, so it's going to be a steep river bank, very shallow stream or river moving very fast. Middle stage, you're looking at a wider valley, a bigger river. It's moving a bit slower than the young stage but faster than the old stage. And then in the old stage of the river, it's a big wide river, not necessarily very deep, but it's got a big flat wide floodplain. Okay, this is probably the most important slide that you need to know in the little bits that we're looking at here, and I'll give you a chance to take it down there now in a second. You've got the different stages of the river, what you'd expect to see. You've got the different features that you'd expect to find them. I have waterfall, meander, and oxbow lake highlighted. Don't worry about waterfall. Excuse me. and Oxbow Lake. Look at our meander here, that's the one, okay? Meander is not a good feature to talk about in terms of erosion or deposition because it's made by both. It's formed by both erosion and deposition. So if you're ever asked for a feature of erosion, don't give a meander. If you're ever asked for a feature of deposition, don't give a meander. Mainly these ones, these are your erosion, and these ones here, these are your deposition. Alright, so this is probably the most important one here to look at. Last little bit in terms of the different types of erosion. Vertical erosion making the river bed deeper in the young stage, lateral erosion making the river wider in the middle stage. So I would suggest that, you know, take this down now, and I'll give you a couple of seconds to pause it there now and work our way through it. Next up, our river erosion, the different reasons and methods and processes as to how and why a river erodes. So river erosion is the capacity of a river to transport, erode and deposit, and depends on the following: the discharge or the amount of water, the velocity, the speed the water flows at, and the flow, the shape that the channel has. So basically you just need to know that the amount of water, the steepness of the slope, and the shape of the channel, that can affect how fast or how slowly the river moves. If the river moves fast, you get erosion. If the river moves slowly, you get deposition. That gives us our different processes of erosion that we need to be aware of. Hydraulic action, abrasion, attrition, solution. Hydraulic action, abrasion, attrition, solution, really, really important that you can know and identify and define those 4 different methods of river erosion. In here in our little diagram, we have our river transport. The heaviest material is rolled along the riverbed, that's also known as traction. A smaller material can be bounced off the riverbed, bounced off the bank, bounced off each other. That's also known as saltation. Suspension, you're looking at things like clay and sand. And solution, you're looking at dissolved material. So for example, your limestone has a chemical reaction with the water and it gets dissolved and broken down and washed away by the water itself. Suspension, you have, you know, smaller little particles, clay, sand, that sort of stuff floating in the water. And this is all got to do with how the material is moved. And there is a strong relationship between how the river erodes and how the river moves things. I mean, if it's moving these stones, hydraulic action is going to be the force of the water moving it. If the stones are rolling off the riverbed or the bank or rolling off each other, it's either abrasion or attrition. So there is a strong connection there. Next important thing for our short questions, these are our features of erosion. You need to know that these are the features of erosion, and you need to know that this is what they look like on Ordnance Survey maps. V-shaped valley, you can see you're high up in the mountains, high above sea level. You can see the contour lines are close together. And wherever you've got your interlocking spurs, you can see that the river is moving to avoid the areas of hard rock. So that's how I know that they're interlocking spurs. They're not meanders because they're high up in the mountain. Waterfalls, they'll usually be labelled on the map, so be careful of that. And my V-shaped valleys, how do I recognise those? The V-shaped valleys, where you can actually see the V shape of the contour lines. That's how I know that they are V-shaped valleys. Again, important that you can recognise these in pictures as well. Get rid of those. There's my interlocking spurs, that's what they might look like in real life. There's my V-shaped valley, you can see it there very clearly, the V shape. Vertical erosion being very active here in my waterfall, and these are just potholes, you know, just something that you should be able to recognize. Okay, this information here next is about a feature of erosion of waterfall in detail. We're not going to go through it, okay, because we're not covering this in detail. All right. So we're going to move on to our features of deposition. Again, the features of deposition, it's important that you can recognize that these are features of river deposition. It's important you can recognize what they look like on maps and photographs. So obviously up here you have your Oxbow Lake, this is your cut-off meander. You can see it here on your Ordnance Survey map, that's your Oxbow Lake. And this here is your meander, here's your bends or your curves. Then you've got your different types of deltas. You have your arcuate delta, which is triangular in shape. You have your bird's foot that stretches out. into the sea, and then you have your cuspate delta or estuarine delta, which you'd find in places like the River Shannon. So basically the sea is able to move away the material quicker than it's been deposited, and it's the opposite of this one. In this one, the bird's foot material is being dropped by the river quicker than the sea can move it away. Just a couple of other little things just to be aware of. We've got your levees here. Okay, your levees are your raised banks. You can see you've got your levees. They're high artificial banks at either side of the river floodplain. Floodplain, flatland either side of the river. A river beach, also known as a point bar, is on the inside bend of a meander. River cliff, steep area on the outside of the bend of a meander. The meander is moving fastest on the outside, so it's eroding, slowest on the inside, so it's depositing. And of course, anything that the river carries as its load, anything it drops is called alluvium. Next couple of slides, going to go through again a feature deposition in detail. Don't really need this, so we're going to move on to that fairly quickly. We're going to go on to our different drainage patterns, and that's all you need to know for 20 markers and short questions on the fluvial environment. So drainage patterns is the last thing that you need to know. 4 different types of drainage patterns. We have our dendritic drainage pattern. It looks like a tree. The main river looks like the trunk of a tree, and smaller branches represented by the tributaries. The radial pattern, they're like the spokes of a bike wheel. So you have your bicycle wheel there, you have the central area, and the rivers are radiating out from it in a circular pattern. You have your deranged river pattern here, so they're flowing around at random, and this would be evidence of glaciation or of boulder clay or poor drainage. You'd see a lot of this in the west of Ireland. Finally, then you have your trellis drainage pattern. The rivers join the main river at right angles. This is associated with a U-shaped valley or glaciers. You've got your wide valley floor, you've got steep valley sides. The rivers flow from the valley sides into the main river that flows through the U-shaped valley. So that's pretty much it in terms of the short questions and part A's. You know, there's a few there that have come up over the years, not too many, but you know, would be no harm to make sure that you're familiar with these types of questions and that you can answer them if they do come up. Because we're putting all our eggs in the physical geography basket and answering 2 questions from it, it is important that you are aware and are able to answer short questions and part A's on the river environment. So that one came up in 2016 as a 20 mark question or a part A. This one came up in the mocks 2019. And that's pretty much it then in terms of short questions and part A's. If you can do those, you're well set. Okay, talk to you soon, lads.